Welcome, everyone, to DocLands 2023. We have an incredible show for you tonight. Immediate Family is a film that obviously resonated with you, and we are so proud to be showing it. It's kind of a deja vu moment, because we have with us the director. I'll say a little bit about him in a minute, but none of this could be possible without the support of so many people, our members, our sponsors, our staff, our volunteer board of directors, and you, of course, the audience, which may have a number of those titles. So I want to thank tonight's sponsor, Bellum Storage, and its owner, Andrei Chenchesky. Andrei has been a terrific supporter of the California Film Institute for many years, not only supporting DocLands, but Mill Valley and CFI Education, and we can't thank you enough for your support and your wonderful friendship. Denny Tedesco is the director of Immediate Family, and he was here in 2008 with The Wrecking Crew. You might remember that one. And we are just so happy to have him back with this film and two guests who are from the movie. And I want to remind you there will be a Q&A after the film, so please stay. If you're not running back for a babysitter or anything like that, even if you are, they can wait. So without further ado, please welcome the director of Immediate Family, Denny Tedesco.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I was just saying to Jody and Mark that, you know, as a filmmaker, for those who remember in 2008, it's so long ago, but you never know if you're ever going to get to make another film. You know, I'm not Martin Scorsese and not Steven Spielberg, but I was always dreaming, God, I hope I get to make another one, and I hope I get to come back to places like this. And San Rafael was one of those places because of this. You guys have no idea how lucky you are to have this beautiful theater. And and I can't thank you enough for coming out, because I know it's harder and harder for the festivals to get people to come out. Because of obviously what has happened in the last few years. How many people, first time at this festival, raise your hand? Oh, that's a good amount. Make sure you guys, it's really important for these films that are in these festivals, if you like these films, tell other people. Spread the word, go on their websites, you know, compliment them, whatever you need to do, but tell everybody. If you don't like a film, don't tell anybody. So, think about, yeah, that's how I'm learning. I've worked that for many years. But seriously, at the end of this film, Lee and Russ will be here with me, and love to, you know, I love meeting all you guys. So thank you so much for being here tonight, and we'll see you soon.
Again, we will see you after the film for the Q&A. Thank you. Well, that was great. It's my pleasure to welcome back to the stage the director of Immediate Family, Denny Tedesco, and Russ Kunkel, I got it, and Leland Sklar.
Okay, take two.
Well, thank you. This is really a terrific film, and maybe we could talk a little bit later about how many films are more than what they seem to be, and they resonate well beyond the screen in many different ways, because I felt that way throughout this film. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I kind of want to start off talking a little bit about film, the movies, and and I'd love to hear you at some point talk about, you know, the Wrecking Crew and you know, why you did that and the relationships going forward to Immediate Family. But I guess the broader question for you, Denny, is why film? You know, you came from a musical family, and what was it that
You got to, there's a thing called practice. I didn't practice anything. I still don't play an instrument, folks. I know it's hard to believe. I just, you know, I loved music, but I just seriously, I still have 3, 4 guitars of Dad's, and I still can't get there. And there's so many of you out there, and I know some of you, and I know it's just brutal for me, but it's just psychological.
I was the same way. Embarrassed to say that came from a musical family.
Yeah. There's at the NAMM show. I don't know. Anybody know what the NAMM show is? Okay. Basically it's the biggest convention in the world of all the music distributors. The instrument makers. They all go to Anaheim once a year for the last 40 years, and it's really the big. Everybody's there. Fender, Gibson, da 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 da. And down in the basement, they got guys that the rent is a lot cheaper. And there was one guy down there. He had a booth, said, "Learn guitar in 15 minutes." And I said, I could put the guy out of business in 10. So it's just not clicking. So, but that's what I love. I love storytelling. I love when I was a kid. I was high school, and I got to do a Pizza Hut commercial as an actor. So I thought that was my destiny. But one commercial, that was it. So that was over. So typecasting.
So with the Wrecking Crew, obviously a smaller budget. That's a challenge. What was your biggest challenge with this film?
This film? I mean, what happened is in 2019, basically, Wrecking Crew comes out in 2015. Everybody had great ideas about, we should do this, but no one really ever says you should do this, and by the way, here's some money. And that was the big deal. So when they came to me and they said, would you be interested in doing a story of these guys, Lee, Russ, and Danny and Waddy? I thought, oh yeah, that makes sense, because at the end of Wrecking Crew, I asked Lou Adler, I said, when you did Tapestry, did you make a conscious decision to change your sound, your musicians? And he goes, no. He goes, Carol brought her own people, and she brought in Danny Kochmar and James Taylor. And so it was like, oh my God, this is kind of fitting. And then the other thing at the beginning of Wrecking Crew, I said, this is the story about my father and his extended family, the Wrecking Crew. So in a weird way, it was like, this is all working together, mentally, and I had a hook on this. So that's what I ended up doing. We did it. We got all the folks, all the stars. We got Linda. We got all those folks in the can before COVID, thank God. And then it came to a screeching halt, as we all remember. And then we slowly went back out and got the guys' stories, as we just slowly, just a crew of 3, just me, sound, and a cameraman. And we got it in the can. I think the funny, someone said, what's the hardest, thing you had to deal with? The shot where we're talking about, where Russ says, he goes, so we're talking about the pot smoking. And I said, all right, let's do an insert. So I went and bought pot. Obviously, we can buy marijuana today. And so I went to to my local dispensary.
You don't have to make excuses.
Yeah, okay, I'm fine. It's a prop. But so I buy the pot. I get the double album. As we all remember, we used to use the zigzags cleaning out the seeds, right? There's no seeds in pot these days. So I went to the flower store, the nursery, got some flower seeds and put those in. So kids these days don't know what they don't have seeds in watermelon either, so I don't know. It sucks.
And they don't know what French fries are made from.
No, they don't. So that's the hardest part.
Well, to see both Russ and Lee, your amazing artistry as musicians, it's just kind of mind-blowing, especially to me, I guess you as well, who have not had that affinity, but just in general. And do you ever, I know you talked about it at the end in terms of how lucky you are and you came around at that point. Could you take that even further? Like, are you have faith in serendipity? Is that part of the way you live, or is it just an appreciation and you felt you were at the right time at the right place? How does that, when you look back at that, how did all that happen, and why were you there at that same time? Was it a bigger act?
Yeah, probably a bigger act. It's a blessing. You know, I feel that, you know, when Leland and I and Danny and Waddy came along and we all kind of met out in California, and, you know, the rest is kind of history. You know, we're just in the right place at the right time. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's a real blessing.
And Lee?
I look at this many times. I reflect on this. You start to think about little incidents that happened that all aligned at a point. And where, for me, in the late 60s, I was in a band called Wolfgang, and our drummer had a friend named John Fishbeck, his picture's in there, who owned Crystal Recording Studios in Hollywood, and he did the early Stevie Wonder records, Songs in the Key of Life, and so. And and we had a band house out in Sunland, California, and we would rehearse every day, and John would come and hang out at our rehearsals. And then one day he showed up at the rehearsal with a friend of his who had just come back from England, and it was James Taylor. And none of us had ever heard of James Taylor at that point. And James came and hung out for like 2 days, and he played us some of his songs, and we went, this guy's good, and all. That was it. And then after that, that's when James suddenly was going to hit the troubadour and all that. And they needed a bass player, and he remembered me from this rehearsal. But had John Fishbeck not been friends with the drummer, that wouldn't have happened. Had James Taylor not been his friend and come to a rehearsal. I mean, all these weird little things that aligned up that all of a sudden turned into something. And I was still in college as a science major, and I had no expectations of having a career in music, and it just happened like in a heartbeat. And it was an amazing time, but there was such a vital music scene going on in Los Angeles that, you know, once you got sucked into it, it was like a whirlpool. And it was, you know, I look back at it every day, though, and I mean, I pinch myself every day, but I do that anyhow. But it's, you know, it's really remarkable how little roads come, and you have forks in the road that you can take, and this just turned out to be an amazing thing, and I feel really blessed. And I remember hearing Russ playing with Things to Come in 1968, and I love that, you know. He was a profound, had an effect on me. And all of a sudden, 2 years later, to be, you know, working with him. All these things are just really something else.
It's amazing to hear how you look at it. But from our perspective, looking at all these musicians that all your band played with, and the amount of albums, incredible songs and mastery, it's almost incomprehensible.
You know, a big part of our success was really due to the fact that over a short period of time, a few years, maybe 4 or 5, we got to, as studio musicians, got to play with some of the best artists ever. James Taylor, Carole King, Jackson Browne, Stevie Nicks. And that in itself set it apart. You know, they're writing, you know, the best songs of their careers, and we get to play on them. You know, other musicians, great musicians all around the world, I don't know if they had the same kind of, you know, chance to work with so many great artists. And I, have to tip my hat to all of them for wanting to have us.
Yeah.
And it sounds like at one period, before or kind of moving up to the wrecking period, they didn't get to work in the studio. It was that the musicians themselves who were going on the road, which again seems incomprehensible right now. So Denny, did your dad come home and tell you stories when you were?
No, he really didn't, because it's weird, because Dad went to work. You know, it was just like he had his instruments in the car, and it was just his tools. Instead of the saw or the hammer, he had the gut string and a Fender Telecaster and a 12 string or whatever, and an amp. I mean, that was what they did. It's funny because, you know, you always hear about the stories of, like Russ talks about leaving, and the hardest thing was leaving his family, you know, and that is a huge thing in a weird way. And that was one of the things in the Wrecking Crew, if you remember, I asked that to Plaz Johnson. I said, when you guys were working, and you know, how did it affect your personal lives? He goes, and he paused, he goes, I'm a better grandfather than I am a father. You know, now that, you don't have to be a musician, you don't have to be an artist, you could be anybody. Any one of us here knows we're always trying to make a living. And sometimes you have to, you know, your family side suffers because you have to put food on the table, whatever. So I think that's the common thread that all these guys have. In terms of the stories, you know, I hear them later. The stories I always heard about my father came later when I started making the film. And that was really thrilling, you know. I got to hear a lot more stuff later. So, did I answer that? Oh.
Yeah, I think so.
I just want to say one thing. His dad was the most, I did a lot of projects with his father, and he was one of the most unbelievable human beings I ever met in my life. There's so many stories about Tommy Tedesco that are amazing.
To me, you know, having this band now, and I can't wait to have you all up here playing, if not in this great theater, maybe the Sweetwater in Mill Valley. It would be great.
Yep.
I think we did that with Wrecking Crew.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. And I don't remember if, no, I'm blanking, Rob Wasserman played on that as well, a terrific bass player too from Mill Valley. But it always seems to me, from listening and watching the movie, that you guys have always been in a band, in a sense. Did it feel like that to you?
It's been a long time.
Well, 50 years. Like, I've only been doing this 46. I mean, I look up to you guys.
Yeah, it's funny hearing like Waddy saying, "God, you know, I didn't think I'd be doing this at 72," and Waddy and I are both turning 76 in a couple of weeks. So, you know, it's the length of time that these things go on since the filming, you suddenly realize that. I also want to say that the airplane incident that James talked about was far worse than the movie really leaves you. I mean, we really thought we were going to die on that. It was an unbelievable experience.
Well, I did a little calculation, and I think you haven't shaved since 1965.
Absolutely.
Right. I want to talk a little bit, and I know it was only kind of reference, and Cooch talked about when he lived in Laurel Canyon, but there's been, you know, some great movies about Laurel Canyon, and I'm glad you guys touched on it, but was it something you were really, was it as important as it seems, what was going on in that little canyon?
It really was. It was a magical time. A lot of it stemmed around Cass Elliott's house. And at that time, I was married to Cass's sister, Leah. And so for a great period of time, we lived in a garage, an attic above Cass's garage. And on any given day, you could go in the backyard and you could see Joni Mitchell playing guitar with Eric Clapton, or David Crosby and Graham Nash and Stephen Stills or John Sebastian. And it was kind of her house was a melting pot for any artists that were coming through Los Angeles. But there was a feeling around that time, this is like, what is it, would be 1969, 1970, 71. There was a feeling that you could do whatever you set out to do. You could write a great song. You could collaborate with other people, and people were doing it. They were believing that they could do it, and they were doing it. And there was a tremendous amount of positive energy. Now, was some of it because of some of the things that we were all imbibing? Probably. But I just saw you. You're here. Oh, I'm so stoked. Anyway, that's my family over there. Anyway, there was just a feeling that you could do anything you wanted to do in a positive way. And I don't know if there's ever going to be anything like that again, but it was right there in that canyon, and you could feel it. You could touch it.
Also, there was a sense of community there. There wasn't kind of this possessiveness about this is my gig and, you know, I don't want to share it. Everybody shared constantly. People were at each other's houses, just hanging out and writing and playing together. When we'd be in the studio, like doing like one of James's Taylor's albums, all of a sudden like David Crosby and Graham Nash come over and they go, let's do background vocals now. I mean, everybody was completely contributing and involved with each other. So there was that real sense of community that I'm not sure that exists in a lot of other places. But at that time, it was really, it was so alive and so exciting and exhilarating every day just to, you know, meet these people and people that you were huge fans of, and all of a sudden you're sitting in the studio with them and hanging out and they've become friends. I still find myself so many times when I'm in a place and like I'll bump into Robert Plant. He goes, Lee, how you doing? And I go, why the fuck does Robert Plant know who I am? You know, in your own skin, I'm still kind of this dork from Van Nuys, and you know, so it's weird when they know you. But that's that community.
You are the dork from.
I am the dork, Mr. Dork.
Why don't we open it up for some questions from the audience?
Yes.
Raise your hand, and we have a mic runner here.
Of course, in the middle.
Yeah.
Hello?
So I have two questions. One for Denny about the editing. One of the things that I really loved about the film was how each player started a piece of music that was kind of, you couldn't really figure out for a little bit what it was. And then you bring in the song and you bring in the vocal. That was so beautifully done. It was so much fun.
Thank you. You make me, I'm smiling because I had a fight for that at one point. No, not from these guys.
I was wondering two things. One is, was that your idea? Obviously?
Yeah, it came from Wrecking Crew. There was a point when we were editing Wrecking Crew. Rich Mortallero, are you here? Where's Rich? Rich is my godfather's son. I think you said to me at one point, you were looking at the film, you said you need to have, because Carol Kay was always playing. She would always say, Carol, give her a hand. But she would have the bass in her hand and she would talk and play. And I remember you saying, you need more of that. Well, I don't have more of that at that point because Dad's gone, no one else is around. Earl Palmer's gone. And I thought, well, if we put Hal in the studio, that's how we would hear it. That's how we would do it anyways. Hal would be listening to a track and we wouldn't know what he's playing. That's how, if you went to a studio and you watch a drummer play, you don't hear the track because they're listening in a different, so I thought that would work. So I planned it for this one to do that. It is so much fun because it's so much fun to watch audiences try to figure it out. And I always wonder if, and there was even there's certain times you can't give it away. Like Danny's solo, I don't want to do it on Danny's solo. You'll know that, you'll hear it. So you kind of push it back a little. So thank you.
One of the questions I was thinking about it is with all the fabulous music that you were dealing with, was it difficult
Licensing?
to choose which one you were going to
Choosing it, no, we didn't. If there's a story behind it or something else, we just went for it. Licensing could be a horrible thing. I give a lot of credit to the labels and the publishers. They've all come together, meaning it's all on Most Favored Nations. Everybody's agreed. There's only one publisher, and they only have one song, and I might have to pull it. And it's a drag because they only have 30% of the song. Everybody else has cleared it. And the writer's no problem, but it's oh, you guys are killing me because I can't give them more money. But that's it. Out of 90-something songs, that's not bad. And then there was also, there was another point where Stevie Nicks people said, "Why you're using a song way too much?" And it's true because it was running long. But I don't realize that because as an editor puts it in, sometimes I'm just listening like an audience and I'm liking it. I like the groove of it. And I said, oh yeah, it is 2.5 minutes. It's almost the end of the song. So we pulled it. It wasn't necessary. But that's when we put in a Carole King song at the end, and that was oh my God, it was like someone saying, you need that song in there. And it made so much sense. It's like it all works together at the end. So you get lucky. So.
My question is for Leland. One of the very few bright spots during COVID was discovering your video blog. And I'm just wondering if you have plans to keep going, or if you're going to, you're kind of a star in a different way now, so I'm just wondering what you're going to do with that.
Like Mick Fleetwood said, it never ends. Yeah, never done. It was weird. That my YouTube channel kind of started totally by accident. We had just finished a Phil Collins tour. His last one is Not Dead Yet tour. And I had some guys writing to me saying that they saw the shows like in South America and Germany, and we were doing like, it was great. It was like 80, 100,000 seaters every night, stadiums. But they said, the show sounded great, but we couldn't hear some of the details in the playing. So I got a mix of our show in Adelaide, I think it was. And I set up a little thing at home where I was playing the show through a speaker, and I had a bass amp next to me, and I was playing along. And I just started with the first song of the show and played it with the bass a little louder. And by the third day of that, I had people writing going, "We love your YouTube channel." And I'm going, "What are you talking about?" I had no idea. But I fell in love with this whole thing, kind of. I've never thought about my career. I think about today and tomorrow. I never think about I don't look in hindsight. And so I've been going through, I've got, I think, 1,350 videos up now on the channel. And I fell in love with this. So it's become a challenge now, though, because all the things that I ended up doing during COVID lockdown, I don't want to give up, but now I'm working again. So like my workload is like doubled now because I'm blogging from the road and everything. But I love it. I love it. I have no intention of stopping at all. It's,
I don't want to, end this without talking about the band, actually, Immediate Family, and what's happening, and you're going to be on the road, and how much fun is that?
well, no, we have and how long have we had the album in the can? It's like almost a year now.
Yeah, here's part of the problem. Not problem. They're holding the record company is holding off the record release because of the film. We don't have distribution yet. We're getting closer, but as many of you guys know that are in the festivals, most films probably don't have distribution in these festivals. It's the festivals that give us a chance to make noise, and they start looking at, oh, look, they're selling out. Oh, look, they won awards. Oh, look, whatever. The word starts spreading. And so these companies start building off of that. Once we come out, and we're hoping that we get a deal soon. And if we release it in October or November, it's the perfect timing because these two, they'll be off. They're doing Lyle Lovett starting, June. They're out for, 3 months? So, these guys are work dogs. And then Stevie Nicks is with Waddy. So it kind of works out perfect. They're all doing their own thing. And then, so hopefully it'll all come together.
So my idea is
Yes.
September, before the Mill Valley Film Festival.
Okay.
Film opens here theatrically,
Yep.
and a show.
There you go.
Great idea.
I'm in. That's perfect. Can you talk to our distributor?
I will talk to anyone you want me to.
Whoever you want to talk to.
His picture.
I haven't gotten a distributor yet. We'll find him or her.
And I will help as much as you would like me to.
Yeah.
In this film, and I don't want to be sentimental about it, but I just, after I've seen it for the third time, first time in a theater, you like coming back to seeing it on the big screen?
It is such a gas for us guys. This is why these two are here. Because I know what it means to you guys to see it with a crowd. And it really resonates for us as people, filmmakers, musicians, and audiences. We're all part of the audience. So it's so much fun to see it in a big theater like this. So thank you.
It's our honor to have it. But, this film, again, after seeing it for the third time, it's just so obvious that, like Phil Collins says, there is that of, guys, loving to play and loving life. And it really is a lesson. I don't want to be too academic about it, but that's the great thing about film. It hits you subconsciously, and then it could cause people to change in a way, or look at something that they haven't thought about for a long time, as you talked about your personal family, Russ. And I think this film does this better than anything I've seen in a really long time. So thank you. And I want to remind people, you should have gotten a ballot. If you don't, hopefully they have one outside where they're waiting, right? I hope. And you just have to tear it. It's a number system. And
The other thing is, like I said earlier, if you like films, please follow them on Instagram. Spread the word. It's the only way we're going to get distribution. Please go to that web. I think you guys, some of you got the postcards. Just, scan it. Just go onto the website, sign up. I'll let you know when it comes out. I promise you, you won't be getting daily or weekly. You might not even get one for a month. But I try to do outtakes of all these guys. If you go on there and you sign up, you'll get the outtakes. So thank you so much, guys.
thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.